Welcome to the Storytelling and Mysteries channel, where truth and terror often share the same address. If you love dark mysteries and true crime tales that blur the line between reality and nightmare, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon, because tonight's story is one that doctors, journalists, and even priests tried to explain but couldn't. This is the story of the town that never slept. It began quietly in the small town of Marrow Creek, population 4,213. A quiet, isolated place in the Midwest known for its orchards, a single high school, and a sense of safety that had lasted for generations. Until one spring night, something strange began. It started with a man named Henry Wallace, a factory supervisor who woke up at 2:47 a.m. and couldn't fall back asleep. He tossed, turned, counted sheep, even tried warm milk. Nothing worked. The next morning, at work, he mentioned it casually to his co-workers. Oddly enough, 3 of them said the same thing. They hadn't slept either. By the end of that week, nearly half the town was complaining of the same condition. No one could fall asleep. At first, people laughed about it. A community-wide case of insomnia, the local paper joked. But by the second week, laughter turned to panic. Children began crying through the night. Elderly residents were rushed to the hospital, delirious from exhaustion. Local pharmacies sold out of sleeping pills within hours. By the 10th night, no one in Marrow Creek had slept. The town's only doctor, Dr. Marlene Carter, was overwhelmed. She contacted the state health department, reporting what she called a mass insomnia event. Specialists arrived, psychiatrists, epidemiologists, even the CDC. They thought it might be a contaminant in the town's water supply. They tested for toxins, pathogens, even electromagnetic interference. Nothing. The water was clean. The air was fine. But people's minds were breaking. A police officer, recorded in one of the incident reports, wrote, "By the 5th night, I saw my own reflection blink when I didn't." Sleep deprivation had begun distorting reality. Residents reported seeing things moving in the shadows. Some claimed to hear whispers when they closed their eyes, voices telling them not to sleep. One woman, Marion Huxley, described it in her diary, later found by investigators. "Every time I try to drift off, I feel someone standing beside my bed. When I open my eyes, no one's there, but the smell of soil, wet soil, fills the room." On the 13th day, the town's mayor, Robert Dunn, declared a state of emergency. The National Guard was called in to provide aid, food, water, and generators for the hospitals. But something strange was discovered in the data collected by the CDC team. All the insomniacs shared one thing in common. They all lived within a 5-mile radius of the Marrow Creek Clock Tower, a 19th century landmark in the town square. According to the town's historical records, the tower had been built in 1891 by a man named Arthur Cray, a clockmaker whose wife had died suddenly after 3 weeks of unexplained sleeplessness. Some say Arthur built the clock to keep time from stealing her away. When the team inspected the clock tower, they found it still ticking perfectly, but one of the engineers noticed something chilling. Behind the face of the clock, deep inside the tower, was a sealed iron box connected to the pendulum mechanism. Inside that box were old human teeth and scraps of parchment covered in soot and ash. The writing was faded, but one line was clear. "Time belongs to those who rest. The restless shall wander forever." The team dismissed it as superstition, until one of them, a 28-year-old researcher named Paul Kinney, went missing the next morning. His colleagues found him hours later at the edge of town, staring blankly into the sunrise. When asked what happened, he muttered just one phrase: "I found the hour that does exist." He never spoke again. By the 3rd week, Marrow Creek was collapsing. People were hallucinating constantly, seeing faces and reflections, hearing ticking noises that weren't there. Reports flooded in of clocks running backward. The church bell rang at random times, though no one pulled the rope. Police body cams captured footage that investigators refused to release publicly. In one leaked description, an officer's report claimed, "We entered the town square at 3:13 a.m. The air felt thick. The tower's clock struck 13 times. For a moment, everything went silent. Then we saw them, Dozens of people standing perfectly still, eyes open, heads tilted, whispering in unison, "We must not sleep." One by one, townspeople began to vanish. Their beds still made, front doors unlocked, no sign of struggle. The official count listed 47 missing within 24 hours. And those who remained seemed hollow. They stopped eating, stopped talking, just stared, eyes wide, terrified, as though waiting for something to arrive. Then, on the 28th night, it finally did. At precisely 3 a.m., every clock in Marrow Creek stopped. Streetlights flickered and died. The sky turned a dark, unnatural blue, though the moon was gone. A single toll from the clock tower echoed across town, and witnesses say they saw the shadow of a man standing inside the glass face of the clock, even though no one was inside. Moments later, the tower began to ring, faster and faster, 13 times again, until it shattered. Fragments of glass rained down on the empty streets, glimmering like stars. And as the final echo faded, the town fell silent. When rescuers arrived the next morning, the entire population of Marrow Creek was gone. No bodies, no traces, just silence. The only sound they heard was a faint ticking, coming from a broken clock tower. Inside, investigators found a single phrase freshly etched into the metal gears. "We finally rest." Officially, the town's disappearance was blamed on mass psychogenic illness, a combination of hysteria, contamination, and delusion. But survivors, a few residents who had left Marrow Creek before the event, told a different story. They claimed that in their dreams, they could still hear the clock, ticking, calling them home. A year later, when journalists returned to document what remained, they found the clock tower fully restored, though no one had touched it. And at the base of the tower, someone had left a fresh bouquet of marigolds with a small note. "Time belongs to those who sleep." They say Marrow Creek no longer appears on maps, but some truckers driving through the Midwest at night swear they see its lights glowing faintly in the distance. So, if you ever find yourself on an empty road and your clock reads 3:13 a.m., don't look back, because you might see the town and it might see you. This has been the town that never slept. Subscribe to the Storytelling and Mysteries channel for more stories like this one. And remember,